be with you guys for another episode. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify, I just want to encourage you guys to go over and watch us on YouTube and subscribe.
Yeah.
You get to see all of Brad's facial expressions, which are priceless.
She just keeps the camera on me the whole time.
Literally. Yeah. I could. And you'd really be even more faces throughout the time because you're doing a lot of adjust. You don't care.
No.
Yeah. Nah, we're just at that phase. Are you at that age now? You just don't care?
About some things.
Interesting. Because I do feel like the older we get, the more, don't care that you tend to get.
No, I think it's not that you don't care. It's that your perspective is different.
What's your perspective now?
There's some things that don't really matter. So.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
I will say I am proud of you because for those of you that have been listening and or watching for any length of time, a few times we have talked about you actually going away by yourself somewhere.
Yeah.
And you're going to do that here in just a couple of days. And I'm so glad. Are you excited?
It's only for a couple nights, but I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, leave a day earlier. Make it 3 nights.
I can't. We've already talked about this.
Why not?
We have a dinner on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We have.
Yeah. Like you've already said this. Our weekend is booked. I can't leave early.
One night. Yes, it is booked one night. You're right.
But no, I am excited.
Well, I am just praying, cool. And if anyone else can do the same, just that you have a time of renewal and just some time with you and Jesus and some solitude that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm going into the mountains.
Into the mountains. And then I hear him randomly say to our son something about like, I hope I find a shed. And I'm just like, we did some work with a shed. And so I was just like, what? Like trying to connect, but yeah, you can explain what it is that you're
an elk shed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Totally I said that. You weren't just thinking. You were like, yeah, you really do need to work on the shed.
No.
And I was like, are you even paying attention to anything I'm saying right now?
You weren't actually in conversation with me. You were talking to our son. Anyways.
This did happen in the car then. So you did it twice. Because in the car, I said something about a shed on the way to church. And you were like, yeah, you really do. You need to, that was on Wednesday. You really do need to figure out the shed.
This is clarification.
And I was like,
I never said you. I said, yeah, we. Okay.
We.
And when it comes to organizing, I'm always involved in that process. So it is a we.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
It's a we.
Okay. With your little I love you coffee cup.
That was the biggest one I could get. As
you're saying the things like, and then just like, love you.
See, that's the type of things that I'm like, doesn't matter.
Well, why would you be? I'm thinking you're saying love you to me.
No, I know, but I'm saying if someone's like, look at that dude with the love you coffee mug.
Oh, yeah. Honey, you are a dude who can definitely wear pink. It's fine.
I don't.
You can.
Not that I'm against pink. I'm
just saying, no one's questioning your masculinity is what I'm saying. So you're welcome. Yeah. Anyways, we are going to have a discussion today about something that we had seen on social media, and I just thought it was powerful. And so we're going to talk about it today. But before we do this, I wanted to get your definition of stewardship. Do you have a specific definition in your mind? Because we're going to talk about stewardship and specific areas of stewardship. But I wanted to know if you had a working definition for it.
Man, I mean, I do, but I've never put it into words, because then it's like, you can't use the word for the definition.
Yeah. You're like, steward well. Yeah. And then you're like, dang it.
Like, what is a woman?
Okay.
What?
So stewardship, if you want me to, I can give you the dictionary definition of it. Okay. And you can tell me if you agree with it or not. The job of supervising or taking care of something, such as an organization or property, or I would add yourself, taking care of yourself. That's basically what it is.
It's like Webster
I was thinking there was another like thing with that, and it wasn't. So I was like, oh.
Can you read it again? Because that was all like weird.
all of it was weird?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So stewardship, the job of supervising or taking care of something such as an organization or property.
Yeah.
So it's just taking care of something
Yeah.
well. You think it's deeper?
I mean, I think it is deeper, but also I don't like supervising.
Okay.
I don't like supervising. Like I'm thinking,
what about just the taking care of then?
Yeah, it's taking care of it, but I mean, it is deeper. Like yes, you are taking care of things if you steward something well, and God calls us to steward things well. But I think it's like so much deeper than just taking care of it.
Do you feel like it's like a responsibility?
100% a responsibility. And I think this is the area where Christians, like, no doubt a Christ follower, but this is the area where I think, if I put a percentage on it, I would say 90% of Christians fail at the stewardship part in some aspect so when you sent me this link, I looked at some of the comments because I was curious on, what people, because he asked some questions. I was curious what people were saying just in general, just kind of like getting an idea. And more than one person, where they hit it, the majority of the comments were physical stewardship versus...
Well, we should probably say which areas.
Financial versus all these other areas. But what I think is great is he said, you're only as strong as your weakest pillar.
That's yeah. That's intense. This is by Preston Morrison, by the way, that we had seen this come across. And I have not gotten a chance to listen to like a full message that he has, but I know that I've seen.
I'm sure he'll call us after he listens.
Right,
to this.
obviously.
Yeah.
That there are, what I have seen has been very good from him. And so he actually gives 6 major areas of stewardship. And I think this is where there's a distinction, because I think when I'm thinking of stewardship, or when I've heard of stewardship talked about in church, I think a lot of times it's talked about in a financial perspective.
Yeah.
But also just in general, I kind of think of it like, oh, your life in this whole picture sense, and I'm not kind of breaking it down into categories. So the 6 categories that we're on here is spiritual, physical, emotional, relational, financial, and professional were the 6 areas of stewardship. Now, I think when you talk about you're only as strong as the weakest area of that's where it gets intense. Because I think our tendency is to judge ourselves on our strongest area of stewardship.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you mentioned a lot of people talking about physical stewardship.
Yeah, I saw a couple. I mean, there was one financial, which I think if you rank these, like really legitimately look at these 6 areas and rank them in a general sense, I think physical and financial will be at the top.
Well, I would say spiritual would be first.
I don't think so.
Really? Why?
Because I think that's where people focus the most. Right? So if you're a disciple of Christ, right? You're a follower of Christ, not just the quote unquote Christian. Right? You're more focused on your spiritual walk with Christ than anything else.
But don't you think that's what you should be?
Yes, you should be. You should be. Yes.
Yes.
But this is where I'm getting at, where I think that, so how many, I'm about to, here we go.
Oh gosh. Brad's in the don't care stage.
How many leaders do you see on platforms that are overweight? Yeah. That are clearly, now, yes, you made a car accident, you're going to gain weight, whatever, like, medical issue, but you can clearly see that they're not stewarding that part of their pillars, right? That's their one pillar they're not really stewarding. But then they'll sit there and not questioning their faith in Christ, not questioning their biblical, not questioning their walk with Christ. I mean, I've seen this. I just recently, I don't know, about a month ago, saw a post, and it was basically talking about this, but it was and I feel bad for him. It was this extremely overweight individual. I don't know if it was a preacher or not, but they were on stage talking about fasting as a spiritual discipline. And man, like the comment section did not hold back. And I'm not saying that that's good, but what I'm getting at is that's where I think there's a lot of people that will put spiritual as a focus in their life, but they're not the other 5 pillars. They're not really.
Well, I think maybe that's what you need to talk about is really the areas that you see as people kind of the weakest areas for people, but not importance necessarily. As far as like, I would still say spiritual is the most important one.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify because I think what it sounded like is that you were ranking.
I'm ranking based on weakness of general population.
Okay. Yeah. That is
your normal, like we talked about in the last podcast. What do most people get wrong? Let me teach you that, right? I'll pick that thing out to help you with. This is what the majority of people get wrong. I think if you rank that list, the majority of people get the top 2 on that list would be physical and spiritual, or physical and financial to me. That's what I would think as a weak pillar. I
actually would say that yeah.
Now, I mean, I'm generally speaking, because I can argue spiritual for the top of that too.
Because I would argue spiritual.
How many YouTube shorts, how many things have you heard, seen where you have someone that's clearly the leader of a church and what they are saying is 100% false.
Yeah.
And I'm not a theologian. I read the Bible. If you're going against what the Bible says, I don't care what denomination you are. I don't care how many degrees you have. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what you are.
Yeah.
If you're up there preaching and it's going against what the Word of God says, then.
Well, and this is where I think I would argue with the spirituality side of it is that most individuals have entrusted their spirituality to spiritual leaders in such an extent that they actually cannot determine whether the person up there is saying something biblical or not.
I don't.
But it's because you just kind of are entrusting that, right? Like anyone who's been given a platform has been given unequivocal trust, and or you just have allowed this to be the area that is kind of given the leftovers of your it's given the leftovers of your life.
I know, and that's why I could argue that spiritual would be a weak pillar.
Well, this is what I would say is if you have a very strong spiritual, like if your strongest is your spiritual, I think it's going to bleed into you addressing your physical, financial.
So do you think that let me go back to my example of, unhealthy, obese leader up there talking about the disciplines that you should have, and listen, I'm not saying that he doesn't have the discipline of fasting, but appearance, like, it's interesting to me, right?
Yeah.
And because you would question, if you're hearing that. So would you say that I'm not trying to argue with you.
Yeah, you're wondering if his spiritual life is
a spiritual pillar as strong as it should be, because I agree with you. Once you have fully, like our pastor JT is talking about right now, once you're fully all in, you cannot help but it bleed into everything else in your life, right? The decisions you make financially, they're not all going to be 100%, the best, but you're going to be making a lot better decisions financially than you did before, right? So you're not,
or they might not make sense from the world perspective.
Well, they're not going to make sense from the world's perspective. What I'm saying is that no matter how strong your spiritual pillar is, you have a strong spiritual pillar, it's bleeding into other areas of your life. That doesn't mean you're not going to fall off.
Right. Or you don't have weaknesses.
Yeah, you don't have weaknesses. That's what I'm getting at. But you can't help but it bleeds in. You look at finances differently. I was reading about this today in a book I'm reading, and how, the love of money, right? Like that's what the scripture says, the love of money the book was saying it's not bad to have money. It's not bad to have wealth. It's bad when that becomes your only thing you lean on, right? The farmer has all the silos filled and has food for everything, and that's what he's leaning on. Then that's what Jesus was talking about not being good. You should lean on him and understand, like in this book, it gave the example, and it was kind of like hit me, made it, I want to always check myself, right? And it was like, how would you feel? I asked this question, how would you feel if all the things you own, every single thing you own, was on an altar and it got burned and it was gone forever? And then it clearly doesn't answer a question, right? It's asking you, the book's asking you. But then it says after that, it says, now what if your family, your spouse, your kids were all lost, right? A very Job, scenario, right? What would you do? Right. What, not that you're not going to feel sorrow and all, even if our house burned down, like I would be crushed. Yeah. Right. But not that you're not going to feel those things, but where are you going to lean on? Like, what do you need those things? I mean, I don't know if you have the post up. Yeah. But then in the caption, can you read what it says? Because I don't have it in front. I don't want to misquote
it says, when you give yourself what you want, you might get a little happier. When you get what you need, you will get a lot stronger. Yeah. Yeah. And you're as strong as your weakest pillar.
No, and I thought that little piece was really good because, want versus need. Clearly, we all need houses. We all need these things.
We have a lot of needs.
Yeah. We have a lot of needs, clearly. But what if everything was burned down? What if all those things? And it just kind of hit me, with all of that, with what we're talking about, just it's not bad to have financial success at all, but where's my heart leaning? Where's my heart at? Yeah. Like if I lose all that, what happens?
Will you be okay? It's always that kind of that question of knowing that ultimately it is who you serve, no matter what happens in our life, that we have an assurance. Like that's I actually heard a teaching talking about that word love of money, that in the original language, it actually can be interpreted as success instead of money. And I thought that was super powerful to think about it, the love of success. Because I think a lot of people will be like, oh, well, I don't have a love of money. But like, what does success mean for you? Right? Like that, I think, adds a whole other layer to that.
So scripture. Like on that, what's a strong financial pillar?
What do you mean?
Well, that was one of the pillars, financial. Yeah. Excuse me. So what's the strong, is the strong financial pillar, like, I'm not worried about any, like I have all the money I need? Or is the strong financial pillar more of the bird goes out and gets food for the day and doesn't worry about the next day? Yeah.
Right. And I think that's where stewardship, right? This ownership and responsibility of the resources that God gives us breaks down, into what we need to do with something. And that's where I think we do have to lean so much into the spiritual of asking God, what is it that you want me to do with these resources, And I think people are called to different levels of that. I know our son is called to just very much so, really lay down. I mean, he's an intelligent kid. He's a smart kid. He's a hard worker. He could go and get a job and be fine. Right. And he's been really called to, I'm going to go with what I have. People are supporting me. I'm going to go and dedicate my entire life to what God has. And then on the other side of it, there's people who have great financial success. And I think at that point, you're called to support those people that are going out, right? There's a whole other level. But you mentioned specifically in the beginning, do you think if someone has that spiritual pillar and then physically you don't see that play out, does that really mean that they've allowed God to work in that area of their life? I think you said we all have areas of weakness here, and there's always something that we need to be working on. I think it's really easy to look at someone in a moment and assess especially when it comes to the physical, what we consider to be an area of weakness. And in reality, there could be a lot of steps being taken in the right direction. It takes a lot of steps to go into the wrong places, and it takes the same to go in the right. Yeah. And unfortunately, there's certain areas of our life, of the areas that we have the least amount of success in, quote unquote, or the least amount of stewardship, that are more obvious than others. You know, most people are not, in an average interaction, going to see that your weakest pillar, your weakest stewardship is emotional.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're not going to realize, like, okay, when you go home with your spouse, you can't communicate, you're rude, you're condescending, you withdraw. Like, you don't just see that in a normal interaction. Where if someone's really struggling on the physical side, I think it's easy to see, like, oh, well, you struggle with that. And so I think it should bleed in. And I think these are things that we should work on in every aspect of our life. But some of them, I think, are more easily hidden. Even the financial one, right? You can go to church and or follow Jesus your whole life and never make a decision to give anything financially. Yeah. I would say that would be to your own detriment, right? Because what is God after? He's after your heart, right? But you could, right? Yeah. And anyone from the outside would look at you and think, like, oh yeah, we got all those things together. So that's my 2 cents on it. I think that's why it's so important that we assess that ourselves, is like, man, where am I struggling the most in these areas of stewardship, you know? And I would say, if spiritual is where you see yourself as, like, this is the weakest link for me, then you need to pour into that more than anything else, because it will bleed into all the other areas in a positive way.
Yeah, for sure.
So focusing in on that. But for yourself, spiritual, physical, emotional, relational, financial, professional, where do you feel is your weakest link?
For me?
Yeah.
Can you name them again?
Spiritual, physical, emotional, relational, financial, or professional.
I mean, first of all, any answer I give, that's not saying I'm great or...
No. I'm just saying, if you're assessing,
but
like,
I just feel like, you know, because this is what I feel like. I feel like everyone, like, your answer should be spiritual.
Oh, I don't think so.
No? Okay.
No.
All right. I feel that's what people would think.
Oh, I wouldn't think that at all from somebody, because I think if you're just assessing your own life, and it's like, you can recognize, like, okay, am I pursuing the spiritual? Not that you're perfect, but your pursuit of it.
I mean, I think I'm a 10.
Okay.
I got a 60, right? If you score. No. I think probably my weakest would be relational, maybe. And then...
Why?
That's a good question.
Why? Thank you.
Yeah. I feel, well, 'cause I'm looking at them, right? Like, you know, spiritually, I mean, I'm striving, right? I'm trying to build that foundation throughout a daily, you know, all the time habits and conversations with Christ and prayer, all those things. And physically, I need to push myself more. I just don't feel like it's my weakest point, you know. Emotional, I think I do good emotionally.
It always makes me laugh when you say this stuff, because you look at me like, am I?
Well, I mean, I can't, how do I assess myself? I feel like I'm doing fine. I don't, you know?
Yes.
Okay. And then, I mean, I was thinking between relational and professional.
I think maybe they tie together a little bit.
Okay. I don't know. I think relational maybe is my weakest link, just because there's I guess you have to define relational. Like I'm thinking of friendships, of making new friendships. You know, and I know I talk about, you know, I have my circle, right? And then other people outside that, but even outside that circle, just fostering like stronger friendship, if that makes sense, or stronger relationship outside of my close circle. I don't think I do that well. And I think I do that on purpose sometimes.
Yeah.
Not that the people are bad, but this is just some area I need to work on. I don't have I'm not going to say bandwidth. I'm saying more of will, like to
the want to, as our daughter would say.
Yeah. I don't, yeah. And that's really where it comes from. It's like, man, I don't know, but I don't feel like I'm doing a disservice to myself necessarily because I'm choosing that. But then again, like maybe I'm blocking a stronger relationship that I have. Maybe I'm blocking it from being stronger because, or because I'm blocking it from being stronger, I'm not getting something that God wants me to have. I don't know. I really don't know. I feel that's just my weakest because I'm not picky with who I know or who I have a semi relationship with, but if I want to go deeper, I am picky. But then again, I feel like that's not a bad thing, but also like you can just go and just make instant friends, right? And you say I can do that too, but I don't really do that.
You don't really want to do that.
Yeah. I don't know why though. Like I don't, that's why I'm saying I think that's my weakest professionally. I think that I can do more, that I can, I don't know. I mean, cause I made a pivot professionally a few years ago. Right. And the pivot was basically, I'm very rarely going to get to do the things that I've trained my whole career to do now. And that's, I intentionally made that pivot. And, but even when I intentionally made that pivot, I also intentionally was like, I'm not going to, promote, past where I'm at. But I intentionally did those things. But then at the same time, I'm like, man, maybe this is a weaker link. I don't know if I was taking I didn't really pray about those decisions, to be honest. Right. And I'm not saying that I'm not in a good place. I think professionally I'm in a fine place, but and this is where comparison is never good. Don't let anyone ever tell you comparison is good. But I have, out of my class, my group, right, that got on the team together, I think there was one other guy older than me, even time in, right? We were one of the two, seasoned guys going through, right? All the other guys had been in less time and were younger than us. And I look at some of those other guys and they're all still on the team, still in different areas on the team, but they're all in, they're in higher leadership positions than I'm in. Right. And there's times I look at that and I'm like, man, like I could maybe, no, not maybe, I 100% could have my whole detachment under me right now. Like 100% I could have. I could 100% be a little higher than that. Like these are not in an arrogant way, by no means, but there's things that I could have pursued to do that, right? And I pivoted a long time ago, but I never prayed about that pivot. So I think I'm in a good place professionally, but I do think that is a weak pillar for me.
Don't you think that shifted naturally with the more spiritual the more that you invested in your life spiritually?
I mean, the drive to go up the ladder, definitely that did. Even before I've never been someone that I'm going to step on someone to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Like I've never been like that. Never want to take advantage of anyone at all, ever. I've had people that could help me actually tell me like, why aren't you taking advantage of me? Because I can literally help you in this and it's okay, but I just feel that that's weird. Right. So I've never taken advantage of people to get where I'm at. So I think in that sense, that did help me when I was focusing more on my, spiritually, and then this ministry, when I was focusing more on this ministry, but
because your identity shifted.
My identity did shift, but at the same time, like we're talking about stewardship. Like I think I have, but it's not a regular thing now. But I can steward a team very well, and I think that I don't know. I've never really looked at it. Maybe I have a lot more reach than I think I do. At the compound, in that sense, where on the spiritual side of it, because my perspectives have changed, but also you have you train so hard to do so many things, and then I'm still capable of doing those things, but I've purposefully pivoted out of those things. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that's hard to see, right? The things the guys are getting to do now, there's things that the commander now, and him and I, when we were doing things, we were complaining that we should be doing the things they're doing now. Yeah. Right. And it's cool to see that. And I know we laid the foundation for that and lead that way, but also, man, it'd be cool to do some of that stuff. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's very rare that I get to. There's opportunities. I've had opportunities to do things, but it's very rare I get to do them. And so in that sense, that's where I look at it as maybe it's a little weaker, but then the more I talk about it, I'm looking at just my career. I guess you could say that this is this professional side of us. Yeah. Right. Or semi-professional. No, I think this is a professional side of us. So in that sense, I wouldn't say that it's my weakest. I would say that it needs to get stronger, but I wouldn't say that this is the weakest pillar of mine. So I think I would still go to relational on that.
Okay. Yeah. So if that's the case, what do you think is something that you could do on like the relational side of things to improve that pillar?
I don't know. Give me the answers. I can go do them. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Or is it, I don't know. I really don't. I was going to say like, maybe it's that I need to be more bold in my walk with Christ. And I think I do need to do that, period. But I don't know if that's on the relational side of that. Do I need to foster more relationships, like foster the relationships I have into more of something? I don't know. Like it doesn't sound, that does not sound appealing to me. I don't know. I'm just being real. Yeah. I mean, and it's not that I don't have, friends. I have.
No, what you have is when I feel become like, okay, I have my circle of people. I'm happy with my circle of people. So like, I don't need anyone else in that circle. I think that's more of where you get. It's not that you don't have the relational aspect to your life. You're always willing to talk to anyone, any of those things. But it's like the further investment where as long as you are, like you have your circle that you're good with, the necessity to expand beyond that is just not for you what you feel is necessary. That's how I see it, at least. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, I have my family, right? That's like main focus. Relationally, that's my main focus. Yeah. I have my core group of male friendships. I don't need a lot of those. I'm happy with who I have.
Maybe
Circle closed.
Maybe I can grow that. I don't know.
What I see in you so often that I think you undermine in your life is the amount of influence that you do have on young men and men when you do have conversations with them or when you do actively do things with them. I think that's always been something that you've felt a draw towards, but it's actually just taking those steps. I think maybe making the time for it in your life as a priority. I think what we can do a lot of times is say like, we don't have time to add something, but in reality we do.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I don't have time to add things. I think that's what I was saying. It's not that I'm like, well, I can't do it because there's no time to do it. I mean, I can see that I have time.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Just don't have the want to.
Yeah, I don't have the want to. Yeah, I don't.
Which is why these are areas that we all need to assess.
But also, I mean, I think that, I'm trying to think in my head, strong Christian men that are my friends, right? That have a relationship with. And there's really only a handful.
That's what I'm saying. You have your small circle.
I know, but what I'm saying is like I could extend that.
Yeah.
Right. I've literally spoke at a men's event where I was like, you need a fire team of men around you. And really I have like half a fire team.
I have half a fire team.
I mean, that's really.
And Brad's like, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know I can extend that. I just, yeah. I just need to, challenge myself with that.
And I think, right, knowing that our design is always to have like someone ahead of us, but then also someone that we're mentoring. And I think that's always the goal.
For a dad, like I have 2 boys. Mm-hmm. That's who I'm mentoring. Yeah. Right. That's how I've always looked at it. So I've never looked at it as like, oh, I need some young,
no, but you also are super involved in youth.
Yeah, I know. I guess I'm mentoring that. Excuse me. I think that I didn't look at it like that because mentoring, I feel it's like, I'm constantly teaching or being with someone and I don't know, talking to them.
No, I think that's what I'm saying is I think that those investments mean more than you actually realize or those little
So am I just like this? So do I need to work more emotional? Because I'm not even realizing that I have this, connection with some people that
Probably.
I don't think I have. So then it's emotionals. So basically I have like, okay, spiritually pretty strong, not boasting, right? I'm not, but I've focused on that, right? I really work that out, right? Physically, I think I'm doing all right. Yeah. It's hard for me. Yes.
This is not ever about there being perfection in an area. This is about like the level of focus and intentionality in an area.
Okay. So yeah, physically, okay, decent pillar. Financially, it's how I define that, right? Mm-hmm. So like, I think we're doing fine, It's interesting because I think for me, financial is my weakest pillar. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you're not hurting.
I don't define it like that.
That's what I'm saying. Like if I define financial, what would I like?
Well,
right.
I'm not defining it as that either. So, trust.
Like financially, what would I like? No, I think that, we're able to we're able to give, and I'm probably, we're able to be generous. We're able to do things for people. We have a house.
Yeah. Right? Well, this isn't your weakest.
I'm going through my pillars.
Yeah.
So financially, I feel that that's a pretty good pillar, right? Of course it could be better, but that's a pretty good pillar. So I got 3. Right?
You have all of them. You're just trying to narrow in on the one you need to focus in on the most. And I do think, to me, emotional and relational, to me, those tie together. For
what
sure.
are there's 6. I'm missing one.
Spiritual, physical, emotional, relational, financial, professional.
Professional. I'm not.
You've already talked about that one. Yeah. But I mean, that's what I'm saying for you. I feel like those 3 actually all bleed together, because relationally, you're also, that bleeds into your professional world as well, you know? And I think your influence on the teams also is something that you probably don't pay as much attention to as you should. As far as you have where you have, what you have gone through, specifically in the areas of marriage, and then specifically in faith, these men need. And I know that they come to you with that kind of stuff. And I think you probably don't even realize how desperately that is needed. Man, I mean, just even having conversations with some of the wives, or just us getting a chance specifically in the world of first responders. I mean, the divorce rate in first responder world is much higher, and you're dealing with such an intense work environment, and it really does bleed out into the personal world. And I mean, you're a hope carrier in that way, but also just the desperate need we have for Jesus.
A hope dealer.
That
sounds a little bit
sounds not great. I like hope carrier. I just think drug dealer when I hear dealer.
Yeah.
So just saying.
Okay, so yeah, I think you're right, but I guess I need to work on emotional and relational pillars.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not.
Anyone
pillars.
wants to send recommendations to Brad on how he can do both of these things, feel free to DM us or email us. I would love to hear all of your suggestions.
Oh, this would be so interesting.
Well, I think for me, when I mentioned financial, I think I need to say yes and no to things a lot more wisely. I don't feel like I have a high level of, when we first got married and we were really struggling. I mean, I think this became like, why are you like smiling? I'm like trying to have this serious conversation and you have like a smirk on your face.
Well, it's because you were like, I need to get better at saying yes and no to things. And I'm like, you're pretty good at saying no.
So that's what's in your brain. I'm not, to myself or to you. Because because I don't like saying no to you. And you have a constant list of things. And they're never cheap things. Ever, ever, ever. And so there's a constant list and Brad will be like, I'm not saying I want this right now, but check this out.
When have I said that recently? Exactly. I mean, like 6 months.
No, you have done that.
Exactly.
No, you have
not.
Have
not.
But when we first, I think there was an element of control that came into that for me to an unhealthy level. Cause I've always been more of the one who's done the bills and all of that stuff. So I don't think we've necessarily come together in a really great way over a plan on finances. We always plan to, but we really don't implement it enough to have like a united vision towards goals. And I think that that's probably why I think of it as my weakest, is because I don't kind of push for that more, where it's like, okay, well, we're going to have to buckle down and say no, 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 no. Because in reality, I don't like to say no either. I don't like to say no to myself, you know? And I think that's where we all run into
I just
this
sneak
area.
stuff in the Amazon cart.
You do
it.
that.
And I'm like, all right, she'll get it.
But so do I, right? Yeah. I mean, and, you know, I don't assess things where it's like, oh, okay, we shouldn't do that this week, or we shouldn't go and do this because we're trying to pay off the car, right?
Yeah.
Or we're trying to blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And even though we are trying to do those things, I definitely am not great at the denying the flesh in this realm, you know, where it's like, okay, there are aspects that, yes, we need to invest in, and other areas that can wait or not be. And we've been forced financially in this last couple of years to definitely do a lot of things we normally wouldn't have done, with a couple of trips to Argentina. Yeah. Normally we would not have done that, but a wedding and a baby and all those things were the necessities that were the most important. And I'm so thankful for God's provision in the middle of all of that, because I mean, when I tell you guys the miraculous things that we have seen God do for us this past year, and it is why we emphasize so much the spiritual, because it gave us a lot of faith, even in the financial, that God would get us through. And I think in all of these areas, that's ultimately what we're wanting for you and for us, is like the increased faith to know that, okay, I've invested spiritually so that I know who I serve. Right. And that means that I want to honor God with my body. I want to honor God with my emotions. Relationally, I want to honor God. Financially, I want to honor God. Professionally, I want to honor God. I mean, I think professionally would be the other area for myself that I see as an area of weakness. I have a tendency to if things become really where I'm like, there's too many things in other areas, this is the area that I kind of want to like, I'm done with it. You know, and even specifically with our ministry, I can feel that where I just get to the place, and there's ebbs and there's an ebb and flow. I think I have enjoyed specifically one-on-one coaching with women a lot. I can have a tendency to overdo that and or not invest in it enough, but we love doing our weekend reboots. That's always been an area of life, but I can definitely get, I'm done with social media. I'm ready for a break with the podcast, you know, things like that. And where I just am ready to just like lay it all down for a while, especially if I'm feeling overwhelmed in other areas. So I'd say those are my areas of weakness, and both that I know financially steps that we need to take is for us to sit down together and actually actually develop a plan that is something we are both on board with and have vision for. That also gives room for play, because I think that's where it's helpful if you just have something where you're like, okay, I want to get that thing, and there is the money there, that you don't feel the need to just add things randomly into the cart, because it's like, okay, yeah, like I'm good.
A lot of those things, to clarify, are not, they're like,
I mean, they're vitamins and things like, so. Which is, it's important. I'm not saying, yes.
I'm not like putting, I can't even think of a
truck. Yeah. Brad just adds to the Amazon cart, and maybe she there won't you see go. This. Yeah. Oh, if only. And then I think the other aspect is trusting God professionally in my life too. Just so real quick, the financial thing, I 100% agree with you. Not that it's your weakest, that we need to sit down and do that, but on the flip side of that, like, yes. So it's kind of, I kind of am looking at these things as there always has to be a last. Right. In something. Right. So like if I go back to like work examples, we're running a drill on the range, and there's going to be a first and there's going to be a last, but your first and last is, 0.3 seconds apart. Yeah. It doesn't mean it's necessarily bad.
Yeah.
It just
and
means.
I don't know if, I'm just saying this to you so you have a perspective. Like, yes, it's your weakest part, right? Link, pillar, whatever. But also, we're not drowning in debt.
No.
So, and that's a reality for a lot of people, right? And not saying that those people are bad people at all. In fact, this is super cool. We're going to have at our church, 55 people graduate from Financial Peace University. And not just graduate like they took the course and graduate. They've actually like knocked down. I can't remember the the statistics, you know,
yeah,
like
but the amount of debt they've
knocked down so much debt as a whole group, you know, individually, yes,
Powerful.
but as this whole group, they started with this and they've knocked this down, and it's powerful. It's super powerful. Those people are building. They're already in the spiritual world, and now they're like, I need to steward this better, and they're doing that actively to steward that better. First of all, we're not perfect by any means. Like, we still have a credit card, we still have these things, but we're not drowning. We're not holding these debts that aren't unusual in the sense of like our house, right? Car. We hadn't had a car payment in how long, you know, and we needed to get a car. Right? We
just saw your grandfather's receipt for the truck that he purchased back in 2001 that we're finally having to let go of. It's kind of sad, but I kind of was looking at that going, man, I mean, this was the principle that people used to purchase vehicles from. I mean, he had put a certain amount of money down and he owed another $13,000 and he paid that $13,000.
Yeah.
You know, he did not walk out. He walked out with that truck paid.
No, he was very big on that.
Yeah.
Like, I remember him talking about that. Like,
the
you
way
didn't
it was.
go do it until you had the
it.
money, right?
Yeah.
And that's something we all need to learn. But even saying that, you know, that's why I think I didn't pick the financial as a weak link in that sense. I know it's heavy on your mind, and it weighs heavy on my mind too, but I didn't pick it in that sense because I know what it could be.
Yeah.
Right. And we're still able to help people to, you know, get our granddaughter things, to get our daughter and her family. Like, we can, you know, do things, get them, like we're going back to Argentina.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to happen. Right. And so we're able to do those things, not saying it's not going to sting a little, right. But we're able to do those things. And so I think that's a good thing. Yes, we need to pay the car off. Yeah, absolutely. And we need to focus on that. But anyway, that's just
your 2 cents on it all.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just trying to speak a little bit of encouragement into you with that.
Yeah. No, I realize, like, and I'm forever grateful for the provision that God has in our life. Yeah. And specifically what he's done for us financially has been also miraculous. I just also know that this is an area that I need to be better and need to work on. And then also just the professionally. But I think ultimately the reason why we're even going through what we consider our weakest, you know, pillars is that you will do the same. That if you're listening or watching, that you'll look at that list and, okay, spiritually, is this the pillar I need to focus on? Physically, emotionally, relationally, financially, professionally. If you're only as strong as your weakest link.
Yeah, I would say, well, for sure, pick the weakest one. But here's the trick, right, that he didn't even talk about. Well, the post doesn't talk about. Again, I haven't heard him preach on this or, you know, really go beyond that post. But the other thing is the other pillars, they have to still be able to hold whatever they're holding, right? Like your foundation or your the roof over your life. I don't know, however you want to look at that, how the pillars are holding things. But just because I need to focus on this doesn't mean I can necessarily take my eyes off the other 5.
No,
right? You know what I'm
not.
saying? So, you know, and this is where people, I think this is where the weak pillars become weak, is because you're like, okay, I need to get this in line. I have to do these things. And maybe it's a health scare that got you there, right? Or maybe it's your doctor's like, I'm going to put you on meds unless you do X. And it's like, well, I'm going to do X and try to fight, you know, whatever it is that kicks you on that. So you start going down that list, and it's easy to start bringing all your focus down to almost like a tunnel vision on this one item. And you're hyper focused on it. And that's what it talked about. And one of the people in the comments said something like that, where it's like, I've been so focused on, I think it was physical. I've been so focused on physical because of whatever valid reason, that my spiritual, my relational, my emotional, all these
It's
others
all,
have fallen off, or I've been so focused professionally so I can get to that level that I've been trying to get to, so it can help me financially, all these things. And then at a certain point, it's like, man, the only pillar I really have is my professional pillar. And now I'm looking back at a crumbled mess, and
why didn't I see that? Why didn't I look at it? Why didn't I pay attention?
You know, but that can happen in any of the pillars,
so true.
Right? Even spiritually, one of the things we learned when we first started our ministry, and we were getting into this, and we've had the opportunity to see behind the curtain in a lot of different ministries and be involved in things like that. And one thing that's always that needs to be said repeatedly is your first ministry is your family, because it's so easy to get hyper focused on that. And it's like, well, no, God's called me to do this.
Or thinking every good thing is a God thing. Right?
Yeah, but God's called me to do this, so I need to pour all I have into it.
Yeah.
When, yes, he's called you to do it, but at the same time, he's called you to be the husband to your wife, or the wife to your husband. He's called you to be a parent. He's called you to steward this well, you know?
Yeah. And if those things are falling to the side, then you've really makes a mess of things. I think that's a really good point, because really ultimately what you need to, and what we need to strive for, is a balance in these areas that, you know, yes, ultimately spiritually, if this is a pillar that you're focused on, it will bleed into all the other areas, ideally, right? That you begin to change your perspective on each and every one of those things, because our life is meant to produce fruit. And so what it is that is reflected in how we handle things emotionally, relationally, financially, professionally, that should be based off of what our spiritual life looks like and our relationship with Jesus. But we do need to have a balance, and not being hyper-focused in on one area is important. I would say as a challenge, and I know specifically on this post, they just talked about what are 3 things that you could do in the next 30 days in the area where you seem to be lagging behind the most. To me, I would simplify that even more and say, what is one thing? Because I think as soon as we do even 3 things in one area, it's like, I don't know, you can get really almost bogged down in it to a level that you just stop doing any of it, where it's like, we always talk about take the next step. But depending on what your area is and what it is that needs to be done, like, you know, even for us financially, it's like, okay, sitting down and making a budget is one thing, right? But then the second and third thing is like implementing, right?
Think it's I think you need to have 3 areas with this.
Three things.
3 things in that area.
Yeah.
I think you do, because it's easy to take one step and then be like, okay.
Yeah, I did a step. I'm good. Yeah.
So I think 3.
Okay. Well, that's a challenge, and I'm excited for you to have your weekend of solitude.
Me too.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.